can get very regional and very provincial. You see it in political coverage all over America. People, I always knew the media leaned left. I had no idea they leaned that far left until Twitter was created. And I'm a guy that leans kind of left sometimes. So the NFLPA players said, we're going to vote and have our own Pro Bowl team. No media, just dudes that play football. And I got to be honest with you. They aced it. The players aced it. This would be my team. Every single player. Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback. Josh Jacobs, I would choose him over Derrick Henry, would be my running back. Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback. Jefferson and Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce, Trent Williams, the Cleveland Browns left guard Joe Bitonio, Jason Kelce, Zach Martin, Lane Johnson. That is my Pro Bowl team. Now, there's some pushback on Devontae Adams over Tyreek Hill. You can't just do it on stats, or I could vote for it. You got to have context. So think about the disadvantages Devontae Adams had to overcome. His star tight end was hurt half the season, Darren Waller. His star slot receiver, Hunter Renfrow, missed 7 games, I think. That meant more double coverage on Devontae Adams. Also, Mike McDaniel's system with Tyreek Hill, it makes Brock Purdy and Tua look like Hall of Famers. It works for everybody. It makes stars out of 6th or 7th round pick Jennings for the Niners, that wide receiver. Wasn't he like a 6th round pick? It makes everybody a star. Josh McDaniel's offense that Devontae Adams is in, it's only ever worked with one guy, Tom Brady. That's it. So context. Devontae Adams didn't have a slot receiver, didn't have a star receiver. Had a coach who's an offensive coach, but Mike McDaniel's system is Kyle Shanahan's system. Average quarterbacks flourish. Good receivers look like great receivers. Let's go to the defense. I think, once again, the players nailed it. Nick Bosa, he's going to be the defensive player of the year. Myles Garrett, I think he's the best, biggest, strongest pass rusher in football outside of Nick Bosa. Chris Jones, Aaron Donald, Dexter Lawrence is just a great nose. Warner and Roquan Smith are tackle machines. Warner's speed sideline to sideline is insane. Patrick Surtain, Darius Slay, Minka, Derwin James is literally the best athlete, offense or defense, on the Chargers. Now you can say, well, what about Micah Parsons? Let's go look post-Thanksgiving. Both Bosa and Myles Garrett are significantly bigger and stronger than Micah. 275 pounds is what Myles Garrett is. Bosa, Garrett were much better post-Thanksgiving. Why? Because Micah's smaller, wears down. The season now they've added a game. Micah's spectacular, but his post-Thanksgiving numbers, he's a little smaller athlete dealing with those 325-pound left tackles and right tackles. Micah was not as good at the end of the year. So first of all, he's not supplanting Bosa. Bosa's the defensive player of the year. Unblockable. Myles Garrett, I think he missed a game, but Myles Garrett's 275 pounds, and again, is in a division with Pittsburgh felt like a playoff team. Baltimore is a playoff team. Cincinnati is a playoff team. But the problem is Micah's on the Cowboys, and they get all this free publicity, and Myles Garrett was on the Browns, and we stopped talking about him after about a week 4. So nobody paid attention. But if you told me today I get Micah Parsons or I get Myles Garrett, I'm taking Myles Garrett. If you tell me it's Bosa or Micah, I'm taking Bosa. And by the way, I would argue TJ Watt would be my next choice. And then Micah. And so you can just make this all about stats. But then I could vote on it. Players know the truth. They know when you take the speed out of Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams runs better routes, makes far more contested catches. When he gets hard to double Tyreek Hill. Got Jalen Waddle over there. Very hard to double. You can double Devontae Adams for half the games this year. Waller's out, Renfro's out. And I like Josh McDaniels. Well, let's be honest. Wasn't Devontae critical of the offense earlier in the year, saying, just because somebody's on me, you still got to throw the ball to me? So I would take Davante Adams absolutely over Tyreek Hill. Tyreek's got better stats, but that San Francisco and Miami offense it's making Tua and Purdy look like Joe Montana here. So you got to add context to this thing.
Okay, I've got a quibble with Aaron Donald. Only played 11 games, had the worst season of his career, and not to be a homer, but Quinnen Williams was utterly dominant and unblockable on the Jets this year. They had a top 5 defense all year, mostly because of Quinnen Williams. And the other guy that's missing there, and I know that they're not going to give him love, is Sauce Gardner, who's the defensive rookie of the year, was, I think, number 1 all season, according to Pro Football Focus. And
you're going to try.
We watched Surtain get cooked by Davante Adams earlier. Remember that overtime touchdown?
Well,
I mean, he just destroyed him.
Well, time out. Davante Adams is great.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, he's the best receiver in the league. Most people think it's Justin Jefferson. I think Davante, the routes, the contested catches, I think he's unbelievable.
Go see what Sauce Gardner did against Justin Jefferson.
So you're not going to get players to not put Aaron Donald in.
Yes.
Okay, so when Aaron Donald's ready to play, he's the best defensive player in 15 years. So you're not going to get players off that. And when the games he was available, he's unblockable. Okay, you can make an argue for Sauce Gardner, but if you're trying to argue me off Darius Slay.
No, I didn't say Slay. I said Surtain, and Surtain is awesome.
Okay.
I went to the Chargers-Broncos game, great seats, and I watched Surtain. Totally took away half the field. He's very good. Sauce Gardner has better numbers this year.
Again,
just saying.
But it's not stats.
Yes.
It's not stats. Like I always say with the herd hierarchy.
Yes.
It's not standings. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, I took the Vikings at 10. I chose the Steelers and was talked out of it. I regret it deeply. I think Pittsburgh at home would beat Minnesota. I think it in Minnesota. Minnesota wins neutral. It's a coin flip. Yeah. It was talked out of it.
Detroit could have gone ahead of Minnesota.
You know what? That's what I should have done.
There's probably a bunch of teams right there who are like, I don't want to see the Lions in the playoffs. Nobody's afraid of the Vikings.
I didn't have the courage. Shame on me. Did not have the courage.
You should out the guy who talked you off that. Do I know him on the staff?
No, I'm not going to get into it.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. But just put it up there one more time. Just the offense and the defense. I got no problem. I think the offense, I love it. The other thing is, Nolan Ryan won, 55% of his games. He had the best fastball. But the reason Nolan Ryan's not as good as Kershaw or a Sandy Koufax is that he didn't have his second and third pitch wasn't as great. Mm-hmm. The layers to Davante Adams, contested catches, work ethic, route running, toughness, physicality. If you take speed out of Tyreek Hill, he's a small guy that he kind of, not that he doesn't, Davante Adams doesn't have yards after the catch too, because they both do. They're both great. But Tyreek Hill, to me, is not as layered. He's the world's fastest football player, and that deserves a lot. But if you took his speed out, I'm left with less of a player significantly. Davante Adams is fast, but he's not, I don't think he's classified as a burner. He can run, obviously. Yeah. But he's so good at so much. He's such a tactician. You're never going to talk me off of Davante Adams.
How about a shout-out to the Kelce family? Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce, best at their position in the league.
Have you ever heard their podcast?
I have not.
Oh, my God.
It's good?
Jason Kelce. You think Travis is the funny one. Jason Kelce's really funny. Like he's got that's a guy. Linemen don't end up being broadcasters very often. Not that much.
Funnier, David Spade or Jason Kelce?
Well, David Spade's a comedian. Well, that was so much fun. Is there nothing better than a good night at a comedy store in Hermosa? Nothing better.
Yeah.
Bourbon, Chick-fil-A on the way home, laughs all night, good stuff. Hour 2, Greg Coast fire. I got some data a couple of days ago on the ratings and the metrics for the NFL. Like the NFL, you can't even compare it now to any other sport in America. It is so much more popular. We watch it, we bet it, we talk about it, fantasy sports. It's not even close. It's like there's the NFL, then let's compartmentalize the other sports against each other. But this is the downside, is that overwhelmingly the young quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts, Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Burrow, they're great. I mean, they're literally, if you have to depend on one guy, it's becoming a little bit like international soccer, Europe's biggest sport, right? International soccer, where the goal scorer, the Rooney, the Messi, the Ronaldo, you're beholden to them. I mean, the coach is basically at the discretion, the disposal of the whims of that game, that tournament the whims of the superstar. If the superstar doesn't like the coach, you have to get a new coach. And that's where we are. Arizona, GM, gone. Coach, gone. Star receiver, gone. But in certain industries, there's certain things you got to do. And in college sports, you got to be a salesman. And in the NFL, got